Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV, powered by the OBBM Network. And it's Mental Health Monday with John and Sam. You know, Sam, we're seeing a trend every month, every week. We're seeing a trend on either the fear or the frustration in our police officers. Mm-hmm. You know, and today really hit a sour note. Either my dog's going. Yeah. Sorry about that. We hit one of those notes that really hit me hard. If anybody saw the video today that was in New York about the mass crowd of car enthusiasts that gathered in New York City that started to do, you know, their burnouts, their 360s, a whole bunch, blocking traffic, causing havoc for the rest of the community. Police officers responded. I think 3 patrol cars responded, and it looked like about 500 strong of these mischiefs, I'm going to call them, I'm going to use a polite word, mischiefs, started destroying the police cars, jumping on top of the police cars, cursing out the police officers. Really, I mean, a total, a savage type of surrounding of all these cars. And they showed one of the police officers in the cars, and he was a young officer, and you didn't know if it was fear or frustration that he was scared to do anything, or he was just frustrated because he couldn't do anything. And then we look at across the country, and a lot of our politicians who have our police officers cuffed and not allowed to do their stuff, like in Boston, where even the police chief threw the police officers under the bus for aiding ICE agents in a car stop. You know, where are we drawing the line? What is that saying for our law enforcement, where there's no accountability for people's actions anymore? How are these cops surviving each and every day? Because I can't, you know, these guys are cut from a different cloth. You know, they're out to serve the public, and they're out to protect the public. And when they can't do that in their job, and they're risking their lives, they're putting their lives on the line for what? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they go home, and that has got to be the most draining part of the day, to relive everything that happened today and know that you couldn't make a difference. You couldn't help somebody. Because you are stifled by the uppers or the politicians in charge. And I'm glad we have our guest today from ResponderStrong, because I'm sure they can give us an insight on the stuff that they see on a daily basis of officers and first responders that come into their facilities and vent these frustrations.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it before. It almost becomes like a moral injury in some cases, where it's over and over and over again. And it's like, you've put me through all this training. I've taken an oath, you know, to uphold the Constitution. You've trained me in my firearms a lot, control tactics, etc. And you send me out and you say, protect my community. And then all these, but don't do, protect butt. And it's like you said, what was supposed to be something that was like a fun thing went south real quick. And it was unfortunate that the officer was caught, you know, in the violence. And, you know, you never think it's going to be you. Right. Just like a victim of any crime, certainly as an officer, you never think it's going to be you. And when you're not equipped properly, or you're told you can't do anything, stand down, it definitely, I think, in my opinion, is that it would take its toll real quick. And John, we were discussing before the show how many officers are leaving New York. A lot of them are coming here to Texas, yep. Florida, and other places where the brass or wherever the departments they go to, they get it and they're not hamstrung by that. And you're right, our guests, Angie and Jason from ResponderStrong, I'm sure this is not the first time that they have heard stories like this. And so why don't we bring them on to share about themselves and about this amazing organization called ResponderStrong. Angie and Jason, welcome to Badge of Honor TV.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for being with us. And Angie, we'll start with you. Why don't you tell everybody listening on their favorite podcast app or watching on their favorite social media platform, including OBBM Network TV, a little bit about you.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much, John. First and foremost, thank you to both of you for hosting us this evening. We're really excited to be here. My name's Angie Garnsey, and I am sending greetings and well wishes from the state, from the first state of Delaware. So from the East Coast, greetings, of course.
East Coast.
It's good to go. And I'm really just happy to be here. So in my capacity here with ResponderStrong, I actually serve as the training coordinator. Basically transitioned to ResponderStrong following 21 years of service as a Delaware State Trooper, made that transition to the civilian side of the house and just focused on mental health, wellness, and resiliency, trying to equip our responders, all responders, not just exclusive to our law enforcement partners, but everyone across the board who is a responder and falls underneath of that umbrella with the mental health skills and resiliency skills that can get them from hire to retire.
I like that.
I like that. From higher risk to retire. See, that's a writer downer. I talk about that everywhere.
I love that slogan. Hire to retire. Yes. I love it.
And you know, please forgive me because I think we connected on LinkedIn and I didn't see anything about your work as a Delaware State Trooper. So you need to like put that in there because there's not a lot of us.
Probably time for an update. Probably time for an update for sure.
But you've got a robust background in emergency management and some other things that lend itself to what you're doing with ResponderStrong because, you know, also you talk about, you know, it's built by first responders for first responders. And that's it. That's important when first responders are looking for a place to find out more information, to possibly ask for help because they know they're in a place where people get them. So, Jason, why don't you tell everybody listening and watching a little bit about you and your background?
So, hello, everyone. Thank you again for having us on today. We really appreciate it very, very much. There's a huge need for organizations like ours, and it's such a, I wouldn't say a flooded market. The need's so great, there's not enough resources out there. Right. And so we really appreciate you guys concentrating on some of this stuff. My name is Jason Mitchell. I retired from the largest suburb of Houston, Pasadena, Texas, as a police officer. I went through the entire gamut of things from patrol to narcotics, counterterrorism intel, and finished up in administration doing health and risk mitigation. And that's sort of how I got into this. When I started looking for resources, even in the city of Houston, I found very few resources for our officers. You know, those that are either, I was looking for those clinicians that were already working in that responder space, or they had some trauma background or something. Very few. And that sort of sparked the interest, and I started getting into this a little more. And it was just kind of eye-opening. So, but I got a paramedic background, did all the things, and stepped into this role as director of operations and programs. Our founder, Rhonda Kelly, gave me a phone call, and she said, "Would you be interested in coming on board?" I said, "No, absolutely not." and fast forward, here I am. So, it's a really, you know, most of us in the responder community, we want to help out others. We want to give back either to our communities or help our brothers and sisters next to us. And stepping into this role is, while completely different than what I did before, it's so rewarding to see the effects of some of the services that are out there, and really eye-opening from my perspective.
Jason, what year did you retire?
I retired almost 24 years, but I retired in May of last year.
So May of last year. So what had happened this past a couple of weeks ago, where because Harris County is where you worked, right?
Yep.
Okay. And you worked in administration, and you said you didn't see a lot of resources down in the Houston area or the Harris County area. And I'm sure you read about the paper with the 4 officers who've taken their lives. What are your thoughts on that? Is it because of the lack of resources? Is it the way the administration is? What are your thoughts, if you don't mind sharing?
There's so many different layers, in my opinion, to that. Whether it's the resources within the organization, whether it's external resources, whether it's the stigma of being seen as weak, or does the organization have a culture of belongingness? Do they have that culture that supports that fellow officer, or are they going to go immediately to fitness for duty and take their gun and badge and everything like that? There's so many different layers. And right. I can speak to my organization. We formed a resiliency and mentorship program, called it RAMP, and started really digging. We rebuilt our peer-to-peer and did a lot of things to make it easier for our officers to at least seek help without having to go through administration or without feeling like they were going to be seen as weak. And right. So we built out those programs. Those programs are still thriving and actually doing tenfold better since I left. And hopefully that's not a reflection of me leaving and made it better, but they're doing some really great things. And I know that, the community as a whole in the Houston area has improved drastically. But again, it takes, unfortunately, incidents at times. It takes these incidents to kind of shed a light and expose some of the gaps that are out there. And
you said it best, exposing the gaps, and that's important. We got to take our first break. Angie, when we come back, let's touch on, since Jason got to share about his previous employer, I think people would be interested in hearing about, we don't have a lot of troopers or retired or former troopers that have been on the show about what you guys had available. So we got to take our first break. We'll be right back. Everybody stay tuned.
Forget Zoom, try Meetin. Meetin is a brand new video meeting service. And not only is Meetin simpler and easier to use and more powerful, Meetin also has the right values. Here at Meetin, we believe in freedom. We believe in privacy. We believe in America. And we are apolitical. Now, to get your free forever version of Meetin, just go to Meetin.com, spelled this way. And then where it says promo code, type in the word special. That's your promo code. Okay? So go to Meetin.com, type in the word special, and you'll get Meetin free forever. I'm Rick Raditz, and I look forward to serving you as a customer of Meetin.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on this Mental Health Monday. We have ResponderStrong's Jason and Angie with us today. And before we left for a commercial break, we were talking about, exposing the gaps within the mental health system across the country for our law enforcement. And Jason, you brought up how you started your mental health program as you were leaving the service, and it has grown. So, and Angie, you're going to tell us about the state troopers, but both of you collectively, when we expose these gaps, you see a lot more than me and Sam may see across the country, the differences in the mental health programming that departments offer opposed to the amount of resources that are available outside the departments that our first responders should be able to use.
And to that point, when you're across the country, the gaps are the same. In our organization, ResponderStrong, our umbrella of responder is all responders. So you think from the standard law enforcement, EMS, police, fire, to dispatch, which is a huge area that needs resources, because we usually leave them out, and there's so many things there. But corrections, you think about all the way to the lineman that goes into a community and has to restore power, those disaster services, there aren't resources out there. So across the country, it doesn't matter the profession of responder, the physiological responses, the stressors, all of the different things that each one of those professions thinks is unique to them is not. And that's one of the main things we see across the country is that opening the doors, removing those silos and bringing people in from all those different organizations into the same room is eye-opening. They're like, oh, wait, we have the same sort of problems at our organization, or we're doing some of the same things that are really awesome in our organization, yet they don't talk. And they're within, some of them are in the same city. And it's interesting, and it's really good to see just the conversation that comes out of our workshops.
Yeah, and Angie, to follow up on that in terms of programming, Delaware State Trooper, while you were in, what was it like in terms of assistance for y'all?
Sure, of course. So first and foremost, I'm tremendously proud of being a Delaware State Trooper, right? There's a lot to be said for that. Very proud of the 21 years of service with Delaware State Police. And so I think that the big thing that, state police always tried to position themselves in a place where they were leading by example, right? I think that's a big part of, premier police agencies. And that's not just exclusive to Delaware State Police. That is the leaders in our industry, right? Is that, law enforcement, responders as a whole, who is setting the example and leading by example, right? So it's one thing to speak about it. It's another thing to put that in motion and in action. And I can proudly say that DSP was very much committed to the mental health and wellness and resiliency of our folks, bringing them on as recruits and seeing it all the way through, creating those connections and bridging that gap between our civilian counterparts and our uniform counterparts, and then also, taking it out into the community and building those relationships as well. I think that's, kind of the fundamental belief and practice that it was, when I was there. I've been retired for 2.5 years now, but I don't feel like that's changed at all. I think it's just continued to have improved.
So that's great. So because you guys have, I'll call it a small transition time to coming on board with ResponderStrong, you all are coming from agencies where something is working. I'll just simplify it as that. How has that helped you in your roles at ResponderStrong in, reaching out to either officers or departments that they're not quite getting it, but that they need help?
Right. So I'll be happy to field this. So Jason and I were both very fortunate in that when we retired from our respective agencies, we were in a position where we could take a pause and select an organization in which we actually believe in the fundamental values and work that they're doing. So when we both learned in our own time about ResponderStrong, that it was able to connect with that, right? As far as the mission statement goes, the mission statement is very clear, right? In terms of, driving home the importance of the wellness and resiliency and mental health components, and how difficult this job as a responder, as any type of responder, actually is, and just the value of having these resources being available to them across the board. So we had the luxury of kind of picking the organization. So when we did transition at our own appropriate times, to ResponderStrong, it was just very smooth in terms of that, connection with that. For me, connection is a huge part of who I am, right, in terms of connecting with other people. So for being in this role as the training coordinator, that comes naturally, right? Because I'm interacting with various host agencies and attendees that are coming to our workshops, and I can further facilitate those relationships and, direct them to resources that we offer. And if we don't offer it, see to it that they get the resources from other organizations that are out there.
And to kind of build on what she said, when you're talking about outreach and truly, buy-in, we'll talk about buy-in. When you're talking about organizations that don't have services, if you're coming from a similar profession, you automatically have some buy-in from a fellow officer or fellow trooper or something along those lines. But what we do that's important is we have master trainers across the country, and I was fortunate enough to be a master trainer with ResponderStrong prior to stepping into this role. But we have them across the country in a multitude of different professions. So we have, of course, the EMS, we have fire, we have firefighters, we have chiefs, we have nurse practitioners, we have a bunch of different. When you're thinking about, again, that responder, it's important that when we do offer resources or we step into a host agency, we're sending culturally competent individuals into those agencies so that there's, again, that automatic buy-in because you can speak their language versus, I mean, one of the things that we try not to do is you don't want to send a couple of law enforcement officers into a firehouse. Right. There's just, it's going to be the jokes back and forth and all the things. That's going to be there regardless. But it's important that you have a layered sort of approach to whatever your program is, and however you decide to move forward with it. You've got to have those layers to it. It's not a one size fits all. No different than all of us. It's the tools in our tool bag. And those tools vary based on the situation. We apply them differently, and it's important to have, again, multiple tools when you're talking about mental health resources.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, Jason. Lingo is very important. Any college educated person can go in and teach peer support or teach this mental health aspect. But if you're not making that connection, if your audience that is with you is not feeling your heart and soul, that you were there, what you're talking about, you're going to lose them immediately, right?
Sure.
We've seen that over and over again on every side, and you build up a diverse bank of officers and trainers such as yourselves, and that's how you become successful. And that's why ResponderStrong has such a success rate with those who are taking the workshops.
Well, and to kind of paint the picture, you look at law enforcement, for instance, 22-year less lifespan than the average public. Mm-hmm. Why? We need to look into what the factors are. Is that the long-term exposure to cortisol? Is it, the stress response overall of the body? Is it, how the cardiovascular system's affected based on stress? You look at firefighters, 47% are estimated right at 47% experience suicidal ideation. Are we addressing that? We talk about recruitment. We talk about retention. If you're an organization that promotes overall wellness and that's not just we do physical pretty well. We know that hey, if you eat right and you exercise, there's good things there. But what are we doing on the other part of that? But when you're talking about EMS providers, 10 times the national average on suicide ideations. And dispatchers, 30% of dispatchers report experiencing moderate to severe anxiety. Mm-hmm. And it's roughly 2.5%, I think it is, for the general public. But you think about healthcare workers, exhaustion, burnout. You had 126,000 nurses leave the profession during COVID. They're like, not doing it. And again, some of those, the reasons are layered as to the why. But when you're talking mental health, it doesn't matter the profession, the overall response and the issues that we have with continuous every single day, some sort of stressor, it adds up. And when you're talking administrative betrayal, like the examples you gave earlier, when you're talking about New York, if your employees don't feel supported, why would they stay? Right. And why would they stay not just with the organization, but in the profession as a whole? Right. And so you to your point, you see them leaving different states, coming to other states, and staying in their profession. But it's a complex issue, and it's not a simple fix. And that's again back to the whole tools in the toolbox. The layered response of how to address these issues is what's important.
Yeah, and you guys have done a fantastic job in terms of getting your trainers, and you say the robust team spread out so that they can address these issues no matter what kind of department. When we come back from our next break, let's talk about exactly how somebody, whether it's a chief or maybe it's somebody in the mental health unit or a sergeant, somebody in the leadership with stripes, how they can get one of your trainers in and how that all works. We'll be right back after these messages, everybody. Stay tuned.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, and our special guest, Jason and Angie with ResponderStrong. Before we left for the commercial break, we were talking about a whole host of things, from layering on the mental health on different departments to building up better mental health programs and retention on our law enforcement and why people are leaving the job. And I think mental health, the mental health aspect has a lot to do with why people leave, because you look at what you guys did 21 years and 24 years respectively. That's long term. We're not seeing that. We're seeing people leave the job after 5 years or after 7 years. The frustration factor is overloaded. And I being out of the job for as long as I've been, I can't imagine how that is on today's officers. But I'm glad you guys are here to recognize it and help build them back. You know?
Yeah. So how does if there is a need that's recognized, no matter who gives you guys a call, how does it work with your trainers getting into the department? And I have a follow-up question after that, but let's answer that one first.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and field your question in regards to the how and the who. So the Train the Trainer workshops are our flagship program, one of our flagship programs that we offer through ResponderStrong. Basically, what we would do, Jason and I will personally invite anyone out there to join us that's a responder. Okay, and what does that mean? Basically, we offer these workshops completely free of charge. They're typically a calendar day. And you can just go right online, learn at our website, which is just ResponderStrong.org, check out the calendar. And then we offer this workshop across the country, both in person and virtually. So there's a whole host of dates and locations that are already up there. You know, in 2024, since fall of 2024, we had 6 different classes. We were in Indiana, Virginia, Colorado. We were out to Oregon, Mississippi, back cut across the country to Virginia and Pennsylvania and New York. And we're off to the races again in 2025. So, we're working towards having no less than 15 different Train the Trainer workshops scheduled, wherein that would give a person an opportunity to become a trainer. That's where the measurable impact comes. So you attend a workshop that we offer, and then you are provided with curriculum, ongoing support from our organization, and resources to then take that material back as a trainer and take it back to your respective community and or organization and instruct on that material. And the material is designed to be, instructed either in segments, right? Smaller segments, because we know that from staffing and funding and time, to find an 8-hour day to pull people off the road or out of their capacities for an 8-hour training day, it's hard to do. So our training is designed in a way in which you can take it back in segments. If you already have an existing training that's in place, you can certainly incorporate ours and kind of build it into your existing training. Or if you're new to this and you have no training at all, or no training currently in place, or no curriculum in place, then we go ahead and provide you with our full curriculum, and you can go ahead back and instruct that. And then we support you, moving forward as one of our instructors.
That's amazing, because it really it's now like, we've given you go forth and prosper, but you're able to go into higher up. We've heard it from lots of guests. Their chief either recognizes there's a problem, is blind to the problem, or really has no clue how to get started. And for that agency, it's like the heavy lifting's already done.
Right.
All we have to do is let's get people trained. That's beautiful.
That's the whole purpose of it. We try to make it as easy as possible. And it's an awareness level. Our mental health curriculum is an awareness level curriculum. So if you think about whether you start at the police academy or the academy level, those first few months that you're getting into that space, you can bring in the families to sit in this curriculum so that they can understand their responder a little bit better. But the whole purpose is to make it as simple as possible for the agency or the organization to then implement. And we'll, like to Angie's point, we'll support you. We'll give you access to our research, our updated presentation, slide decks, all the stuff that you would need to then not promote ResponderStrong, but promote mental health. And really
the one thing I do want to bring up too to all our listeners, what they're offering, what ResponderStrong is offering. Angie mentioned a couple of different states and locations. This is not bound by those states. The mental health peer support or the train-the-trainer, if you live in New York and you take the course in Pennsylvania, it's still train-the-trainer. And that's what's so wonderful about these programs. You could take them in any state. They're not bound by any
there's no boundaries. Yeah.
No boundaries, or it's teaching you the skills. So you can go anywhere in the state. So don't feel that because they haven't been in this part of New York, I am restricted. You could take one of these classes no matter where you live, coast to coast.
John, can I just piggyback off of that just for clarity perspective, or, for clarity's sake also? So most of our classes are actually offered virtually and in person, which is a beautiful thing in this day and age to accommodate people come wherever they are, right? And they walk away with the certification in hand at Train the Trainer, and certified by ResponderStrong to take that back to their respective organizations and communities. So, and we do that. And once they complete the training, then they're in a position where they are supported through our Champions Network. And the Champions Network, really, quite honestly, is only a few months old, but it's been a couple years in the making, in that we were receiving feedback from our trainers that said, hey, this is really great. Thanks so much for inviting me in and providing me this curriculum. But what happens next? And we listened, right? Just, you hear it all the time as an instructor. Hey, if you give us if you give us information in our evaluation, we're going to take it and run with it. That could not be more true within ResponderStrong. So basically, we received feedback from our trainers that said, hey, I really appreciate this material, but I'm not sure what to do or how to transition it back to my respective organization or community. And we said, all right, well, we have heard you, one, and two, that kind of, gave birth to the Champions Network. And that's essentially like an instructional community wherein we will provide, continued support, continuous updating of that information that's available to them, via just a traditional Dropbox. That's how we, conduct business, if you will. And positions us well to continue to grow grow our measurable impact, right? Because you're getting it back out there to the community and the people that need it most.
Yeah. And John, real quick, the follow-up question is, as folks are listening and watching this going, well, okay, so I get trained, and how do we know it works? Well, you guys have always had in place that research piece. And Jason, you and I talked about a lot of that well before we were scheduling this podcast, this TV show tonight, rather. Can you talk about that research piece? And that's how you know that this works.
So NDRI Ventures is our parent. They are a research institute. It is PhDs that do research. That is all they do. And so we pull data points, whether it's sleep studies, whether it's suicide in a particular area. What are we seeing with dispatch, with corrections, with different things along those lines, constantly doing research. And then we backfill our presentations with that research. And so it's always fresh. We are constantly updating. Matter of fact, we are supposed to push out, I expect that we'll push out our new curriculum. The entire project will be around July. But it's a complete rework of what we've had. And we will update little bits and pieces as we need. But the research piece is super important. I mean, I can sit here and tell you, yes, it's a problem, but how do I really know it's a problem? Where's the data coming from? What are the numbers? I can speak to events like Harris County's having, where they had the 4 deputies decide to go the route that they did for whatever their reason was.
Right.
But you can point to those, but is it a national problem? we know it is through our research. And so it's incredibly important that's one of the, again, from my perspective, when I started looking in, when I was asked about being a master trainer, I'm not going to put my name on anything that I can't back, that I can't believe in. And whether it's free, we don't nickel and dime you part, to the research part that okay, they're really making some effort. And then now stepping into this role as director, I have a little more intimate understanding of it all. Now, I will say this. In dealing with a research institute on a daily basis, I do feel like the dumbest person in the room, just for the record. So
I don't think you're alone in that for sure. Yeah, so we go from badges to trying to understand that research is it's like the meme, huh?
Yeah. we have our John Edmondson that makes us feel the same way, you know.
Like English
research.
Yeah.
The research that you're talking about is probably one of the most important tools in the toolbox, than the statistics and everything else, because that shows somebody that you've trained when they go back to their department and they go, chief, like you said a statistic that I was totally unaware of when you talked about firefighter ideology on suicides was 47%. I had no idea it was that high. I thought firefighters were a lot lower. But when a newly trained peer support or trainer goes to their chief and says, hey, look at these statistics, and then that chief turns around and says, well, that doesn't happen here, or that doesn't impact us because we're a smaller department, or we're this. What are some responses that you could tell those our first responders taking the class? What's the counter on that?
You know what, John? That is the perfect leading question for right after this break. We got to do a station identification. Right. We'll be back real quick.
Leftovers again? It's time for something we haven't had in a long time. It's time for something right. It's time to make the right choice. OBBM Network TV is always the right choice. Choose right.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. We're talking about statistics and research and how that is one of the most important tools in your toolbox, because that gives you your data and all your facts on what's going on through not just your department, but countrywide for our first responders. So, Jason and Angie, that question I asked about somebody who's taking a peer support or somebody who's taking a trainer, they go back and their chief turns around and says, well, that doesn't happen here. We're a smaller department, or we don't need that, or it doesn't impact us. What would you tell them?
It's interesting, you know, that question, because we see that across the country, whether it's a small agency, what have you. You have large organizations that are for profit that the larger agencies can maybe pay for. And that's one of the beauties of ResponderStrong is that we're free.
Right.
It doesn't cost you a dime.
Right.
No excuse.
But when you're talking about culture, if you have a culture of, hey, we've always done it this way, or that's not going to affect us, that happens elsewhere, we know what that gets us, whether it's from a training standpoint, whether it's from the mental health standpoint. Ultimately, somewhere in that chain, there's going to be a weakness and you're going to have some issues. And so there's nothing better than a chief to come into a room of either the new recruits or their small department and go, hey, I was struggling with X when I was this age or in this part of my career.
Yeah.
And you want to get buy-in, you want to get your agency to truly shift its culture to be really supportive. That's the best way. And if you're a small agency, team up with your other agencies. Get 1-2 people from each one and have a regional peer support team, because you can get peer support certification that's free. And we try to remove those excuses. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you've got leadership at the top, if you've got leadership that just won't listen, keep trying. There's going to be a time when something's going to happen. And again, back to that shining the light on the gaps. That light's going to be shown. Right, wrong, and different. Whether it's a positive or a negative, it's going to happen. It just stay the course and keep promoting the mental health and overall wellness, and just stick with it. And again, Chiefs change. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you never know who that person's going to be. But again, if you want to shift a culture and you have a chief that's vulnerable and not afraid to come out and share and truly tell their story, that's the best way to really affect change in your organization.
Yeah, we've seen that firsthand.
Yes.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. So, Angie, if somebody watching this or listening on the favorite podcast app wants to consider becoming a trainer, what is the best way for them to do that?
Sure. I think first and foremost, it would be beneficial for them just to look at our organization as a whole. And we would probably just direct them straight away to the website, which of course is just the ResponderStrong.org. And then, you know, both Jason and I were available by email if you have more specific questions or concerns. And you can do that one of two ways. You can just simply Angie at ResponderStrong.org, Jason at ResponderStrong.org. Or if you really want to just keep it on a more generic side, we have a general mailbox, and that's just the info at ResponderStrong.org. We pride ourselves on fielding those emails that do come in. So if, you know, someone has a question or a concern, or they're looking for additional information, you know, we make ourselves readily available to field those.
And your training that you offer and I'll call it the resources that you offer, they are quite robust, like super quick. Could you just like rattle off like the most popular? Because that's like a whole nother show, just discussing each one.
Right. So I mean, primarily for me, I oversee, you know, there's three real parts to my role here within ResponderStrong at the current time so I oversee our flagship training program, which is that train the trainer workshops that are out there across the country. So if someone's looking to be a trainer and get equipped with the curriculum to take back to their respective agency, organization, whatever the case may be, understanding that information that we instruct is both awareness level, but it's also transferable knowledge, meaning that it's applicable to personal and professional parts of your lives, which makes it even more relevant, right? Of course, because we know as responders that personal and professional overlap. So you have that component. We also have our clinician resource page that's available out there. We are currently reworking that page, but essentially what that is we have identified various clinicians from all over the country who work primarily with responders or work in the space with responders. So if someone say they live in Delaware and they're looking for someone that is culturally competent, you know, in terms of offering services and resources that are available to them in their respective home state, we can direct them to our clinician resource page. Again, we're currently reworking that and updating that, but it's still readily available to our folks out there as an additional resource. And then, of course, we have our You Responder Strong tool, which is the research part of things, where there's the research, data, assessments, and things that are available completely anonymously and free, of course. So we really pride ourselves on the fact that free is a big part of what we offer. And if that doesn't hit home, I'm not sure what will.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's what Jason said. You make sure to operate in the no excuses zone, and you've taken away every barrier. We got to take our next quick break. Jason, I know you wanted to say something. When we come back on the flip side, the stage is yours, my friend. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Rise and vibe with your new elevated morning ritual. Meet Rise by Frequence. Frequency charged nutrition. Rise is formulated with a blend of 7 different organic mushrooms, B vitamins, amino acids, and green coffee bean extract. Rise supports brain health, performance, and focus while enhancing mood, mental clarity, and energy. Enjoy the delicious mango lemonade flavor while giving your mind the nutrients it needs. Get charged up with Rise. Fuel your body and mind today.
Hey, it is now time to accept the challenge. We are in the midst of a 21-day challenge where you can rise and vibe with me and John, and it is super easy to do. All you have to do is go to abadgeofhonorhealth.com. We've put together packages of Rise on its own or Rise with the source minerals, and you can get started for 21 days transforming your health. Hey, if you haven't heard of nootropics, It's all about keeping the brain healthy and sharp. And this is exactly what Rise does without sugar. So it is keto friendly. I use mine as a pre-workout and I am in the zone and it lasts all day. So again, Rise and Vibe with me and John. Go to badgeofhonorhealth.com and start your journey today. Now back to the show with Jason and Angie. So Jason, go ahead, and I cut you off before what we were talking about with the training.
So I was just going to give the actual website for the ResponderStrong tool is u.responderstrong.org. So it's super difficult to find. So
and is that YOU or
YOU?
Okay.
And that particular site, as Angie was saying, that's a bunch of tools there. We're actually building out some new things there to there's assessment tools. We're about to put one for sleep in there.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's some goal setting, there's finances, there's different articles, there's a lot of different things within that site. You can sign up for it if you want to set your own goals, so to track it for you. That's when you want to sign in. The other part of that is if you do sign in and you list kind of what state you're in, it'll narrow down the resources. So when you pick on the resource page, it'll give you the ones that are in your state versus you're seeing everything.
Okay, so I got this up. YOU.responderstrong.org.
That's it.
Okay, so if you guys are listening on your favorite podcast app, it's YOU.
You know, I want to ask one question. I don't know if you have the answer in front of you about statistics, because these are really important things. And sleep. When you talked about the sleep deprivation, what's the percentage of responders because that's one thing we hardly ever talk about. You know, a responder will just say, I had a bad night's sleep, or I didn't sleep well last night, but it's consistent every night. What's the percentage of responders that are not having that REM sleep, that are not getting those really deep sleeps that they need? Do you have that? I mean,
all of them. It's actually, to your point, Dr. Sarah Janke, who is our primary researcher, she just finished up, or is in the midst of finishing up, a large sleep study. And the results that are coming out of that, the numbers that are coming out of there are tremendous as to something as simple as if you have consistently less than 6 hours of sleep, the negative effects, the massive amount of negative that comes from that to the body. And we know that, okay, we want 7 to 8 hours of sleep. We know what that does, but we haven't really looked into the true data points of, you're X number of percentage higher of death because you're not sleeping enough. Sleep's free. It doesn't cost a dime, and it allows your body to recoup and heal itself, wash the brain, all the different things that go with that. And we don't use it because if you're a firefighter, you're working when on your days off, you're working elsewhere because you got to make more money to feed the machine and all the different stuff. If you're in law enforcement, you're working extra jobs at wherever to make more money to do this. And it's a never-ending thing. You look at the nurses who are on 12-hour shifts and then they're back at it the next day and overworked. It's across the board from the sleep part of it. You look at shift work. I think it was I can't remember now. I'm totally blank on it. But one of the National Institute of Health or one of the international organizations deemed shift work a carcinogen.
Yep.
Mm.
Especially if you're on the deep midnights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about all these things. What do we know about cortisol, the stress hormone? Causes inflammation. Well, what do we also know about cancer? Stems from inflammation. So it's all of these different data points that are coming together. But to your point on the sleep, once we get all of that finalized, we're going to be pushing that out. And she's actually speaking across the country on some of the data, some of the new data that's coming. So it's really interesting.
If you could share that with us once you get the final figures, if you could share with me and Sam, because we'd like to share that with our group of people as well. Because I think those are really important.
Dr. Sarah is great. We've had her on the show. And she really is fantastic when it comes to this kind of research. So it is important. It is very important to know. So, how can people find you all over social media to connect? That's the world we're living in, to follow you guys.
So obviously the ResponderStrong.org, ResponderStrong.org, ResponderStrong.org. Both of those, we have almost all of our social media. Well, all of our social media is ResponderStrong.
Okay.
So you search it, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, X, we're on all of it. So you can reach out that way. And the best way is the info at, if you need to get specific, if you have specific questions, info at ResponderStrong.org. And we'll reach out and we'll respond and all the different things that go with that. So it's good stuff.
That is phenomenal. And you do have a very robust social media presence. So kudos to your team who does that. Any final words from you guys? This has been completely eye-opening.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We know the problem exists. We want to do the most good that we possibly can. We're always limited in resources. And that's right, wrong, and different. That's the nature of the beast. And us being a nonprofit, it's part of what we do. But thank you for giving us a platform to be able to speak on the importance. And we just scratched the surface, to be real honest, of really illustrating the issue across the country for our responders. We want to care for those who care for us. And we don't always do a very good job. And I would argue in the last several years, we've actually almost waged war against our responders, blaming them for all things. And as the professions change, you think law enforcement used to enforce law. Now you've got to be all things to everyone. And it's, again, doesn't matter the profession. There's more expected of you. And so thank you for giving us a platform, and appreciate the opportunity to really kind of talk through this and really kind of expose or shine the light on some of the things that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. Angie?
Perfect. No, I think it's super important just to say thank you. I think it's, thank you for you guys doing what you're doing out there in the communities and getting the word out. But thank you to the people that are out there doing the job, right? Our fellow responders. Yeah. It's really important that they understand that by and large, people do appreciate everything that they do every single day. And it is our responsibility to take the very best care of ourselves so that we can continue to take care of others at the end of the day. That's the nature of the job, for sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you for everything.
You bet. Absolutely. Very well said, and so true. So true. Well, we will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And your entire staff and teams, research, everybody. Thank you at ResponderStrong.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Fantastic. So again, it's ResponderStrong.org, and then YOU.ResponderStrong.org. And I'm all for like self-assessments and cool things that you can do to get that almost immediate feedback. This was eye-opening. So please, if you're in a department and this spoke to you, go do the train the trainer. They've got all the workshops that are available. And get yourself signed up. Again, no excuses because it's virtual. You can be anywhere. Yeah. So I love it.
It's free.
It's free. Removing the excuses for sure. So upcoming for us, May 2nd, we have got a workshop. Thank you to Rowlett Fire Department for hosting this one. badgeofhonor.org. It's up on the homepage. It's a big pop-up, so you can't miss it. So if you're an active first responder, click on that and get yourself registered. And it is free thanks to a grant that we received from our nonprofit partners at Carry the Load. If you're not familiar with Carry the Load, well, you'll find out all about it the end of April into May. Carrytheload.org. They care for our first responders, our veterans, our active duty personnel, and their families. And they've got this thing called the Nonprofit Partners Continuum of Care program. We are a part of that, and we are so blessed to be a part of this. This is year number 3. Connect with us if you want to find out more about how you can become directly involved. And that goes beyond just donating. We're nonprofits, we're grassroots. There's more of us needed because there's lots of stuff going on. as you heard Jason and Angie say, there are so many departments that need the assistance. And this is one way that you can help out. So keep subscribing, keep liking our platforms. And I think we've got all the mess ups worked out. So thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate it. But carrytheload.org, again, reach out directly to us and we'll get you some information. We will be having a fundraiser the month of May locally in my neck of the woods out here in Rockwall. It is OBBM Network TV. We can't do this and spread the word without you and your help. If you don't have the Roku app download it. Then check out obbmnetwork.tv. Right after, stick around because it's steak night. It can be steak night that you eat, but I'm talking about the news because it's news you can chew on. So don't go anywhere. And then tomorrow, check out John and the 99% Radio Network on TV right here on the OBBM Network. To all of our first responders out there, you have got us and a million prayer warriors that want to see you come home safe every day and that really care about you. So thank you for what you do, caring for our communities, for our active duty personnel. Thank you for just going out when the call has been answered. They're deploying, still deploying. We are praying for you as well. So thank you for keeping our shores safe here at home. For our veterans, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show just like this every week. We thank you so much. And John, take us home.
Well, I couldn't have said it better, but to all, take heed to what ResponderStrong said and get some sleep. Very important. I'm just going to recap on that. I know everybody has their issues, but really take warning to that, because out of all the stresses in the world, sleep is the most important thing, because we don't want to end up being one of those statistics. We want to collect our pensions and our 401ks till we're well up into the 90s. We don't want to lose that. So all we have to do is get some sleep.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.